Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Monster's Den. Chris, man, you've been smiling the last couple of SOT episodes you've been on. Look at that smile.
I'm sorry. I'll stop. I'll cut that out.
No, please don't. Please don't.
He's softening as he gets older.
He is.
Oh, it's like butter. It's terrible.
Anyway, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. We are going to be doing a episode that we've been talking about for quite a long time. We finally arrived at Tiny Terrors, right?
Oh, speaking of which, I have a little presentation real quick. Pete.
Okay, Jamie, what do you got?
Little present. Don't expect much, guys. Don't expect much. If your expectations are low already, lower them a little bit more.
Right.
I did it real quick.
Way I roll.
Tiny Terrors. There's the puppet master puppets.
Hey!
Oh, look at that.
Ta-da! That's it. That's all I got.
Not too shabby, Jamie. Not
That's
too
good.
Hey, took me about 20 minutes.
Nice.
I tried to get my
That's
cat. My cat wanted to destroy it all while I was doing it. And I was like, I should end with the cat destroying it. I was like, come do it. Come be bad. He wouldn't do it.
How many shots was that altogether?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I did it pretty quick. It was 20 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Quicker
20
than
minutes
it
on that.
So just think about that. Like so that took 20 minutes for that, couple seconds worth of footage. So just
Right.
imagine like what Ray Harryhausen and all these other
Right.
guys to do.
And they made it look good. And they moved like arms and facial expressions.
hair and eyes and all that.
Yours has that Gumby charm,
Yes.
sliding across the room.
Well, it just looks like shit. Let's be true.
Hey, forever.
All right.
So so we're doing Tiny Terrors today. So of course those films where the evil monster killer, whatever, is Yohai, right? Or size varies, but that's who does the killing. The little guys, little creatures do the killings. There's lots of these films going way back. So I've asked everybody to pick out their 3 favorites, and then we'll probably throw out some honorable mentions at the end. The first go around, we'll have people give their number 3 and number 2 picks, and then the last go around, we'll do our number 1, and we'll do some honorable mentions. So we'll start off with Mr. Kaminski. Start at the bottom here, work our way up the zoo. Oh, let me introduce everybody. Craig Kaminski, Dan Brown, Chris Laszlo, Davy Gallagher, and Jamie Laszlo. Welcome, gentlemen. Now, Craig, turn it over to you.
All right, my first one at when I was compiling my list, I thought that this would be kind of this first movie would be a journey into Catino Land, just past the Chocolate Falls and past the Lollipop Forest and everything. But but now I think this one does qualify because the monsters in question are about, I don't know, yay big or so. So I'm going with 2014's Zombievers. And it is a fantastic movie with animatronic, no computer-generated monster beavers that are irradiated from a barrel of dropped-off like nuclear waste that they end up with. Basically, the movie is a cross between almost like Cabin Fever and Evil Dead, but with beavers. So three hot girls, one that gets naked quite a bit. Their 3 doofus boyfriends show up at one point, and they're
I'm sold already, Craig.
You're glad to see them. You're glad to see them go. It's a silly movie, but it's a lot of fun, and it's only about an hour and 12 minutes or something like that. And there's even a blooper reel at the end, and a fun Frank Sinatra song sort of at the end going Zombievers. So a lot of fun, some really cool kills with the beavers they have glowing eyes and their tails flapping and whatnot, but a lot of fun. Recommended. It's a good watch.
Chris, I think that should be the intro to your AEW pay-per-view party, right?
I'm looking it up right now. It's funny. I remember this being on Netflix like years ago. And I think I actually was one of those times where, like, you guys know shit happens. I started it and then something happened. And I think I watched like 5 minutes, and I never went back to it, and I've never seen it. But
Yeah,
Greg has me sold.
Bill Burr, the comedian, has a part in the very beginning and at the very end as a moving truck driver. The main girl was in the Dumb and Dumber sequel with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, who like the nerdy sort of girl. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. People would enjoy it. It's streaming on most of the free services. My second pick is another one where it is it is 100% not high art, and you may be dumber by the end of the movie, but you will have some fun watching it. And this is one that I would love to watch at either Chris's house or Count Ralphus's theater, in the wild, with a group of people and some beverages and whatnot. So I'm going with the Tiny Terror of the Gingerdead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver, otherwise also known as Roller Boogeyman. Fantastic movie with the monstrous Gingerdead Man, who he's about this big or so. The first two movies, Gary Busey actually is the voice of the Gingerdead Man, and he reads it straight, like in his normal speaking voice. The third movie, a different guy takes it over, and it's like an exaggerated, like ridiculous voice. So it's like, oh my God, look at that! It's really funny, with some kills. The beginning of the movie, which I wish they kind of would have stayed with this premise, it's the Institute for the Study of Homicidal Baked Goods, where there's a whole bunch of different living pastries that are being kept captive, and a Clarice Starling comes in to interview the Gingerdead Man, who has a mask, has the Lecter mask on, and on her way to his cell, she's accosted by a murderous cream puff who says, "I can smell your muffin," and he throws some vanilla icing onto her face. So you can't go wrong with that. Once she is interviewing the Gingerdead Man, he says, "I can smell the ham sandwich that you had for dinner, but not today. It was yesterday." It's just it gets silly. He finds his way to a time machine and goes back to 1976. Within the same institute, that's where you get the Saturday Night Cleaver part, and he's stuck there. So he just, while he's there, starts wreaking havoc. There's even a scene parodying the famous shower scene of Porky's, where the Gingerdead Man puts his ginger member through a hole, and a Beulah Ballbreaker type snaps it off and takes a bite of the Gingerdead Man. But it's a lot of fun. It's extremely goofy, and it's as it's meant to be. But again, only about an hour and 15 minutes or so, and just very silly. But he qualifies as a Tiny Terror. So the Gingerdead Man 3.
Did they make a fourth?
Oh yeah, there's yeah, I think there's.
Why wouldn't they?
There's at least six. I think there's at least 6. There's one where he teams up, where it's Gingerdead Man versus the Evil Bong. So that one is that's another good one.
Bong movies too, I think. Isn't there like 6 Evil Bong movies?
There's a bunch. I think Charles Band, as long as these direct-to-videos made a certain amount of money, he kept making more.
Yeah, I think I saw Evil Bong 8, like Infinity or
Holy
something,
shit.
and there's at least 8 of those.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Charles Band. Charles Band he is what people think Roger Corman actually is. Charles Band really is, I think. If it makes $5, he will make another one.
Oh. Yeah. And his father started the company. Wasn't him.
Yeah.
Father was the original.
Yeah, and the brother does the music, yeah.
Yeah, and the son took it over, and he actually had it, didn't he? He actually owned or worked on a studio in Italy, the father. They had like
Mhm.
it's in an Italian studio to do their films, and then they went down to North Carolina, which was like a free to work state union wise. That's where like De Laurentiis and a lot of them went with the Carolinas. But yeah, Craig, 2 winners, man. That's
Yeah,
it.
Kaminski knocking it out of the park.
And the beaver and the cleaver.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Unintentionally so. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
I have seen the covers of these films, and I go, there's a couple things I like from Charles Band and this, and that, and I'm going like, I don't know, I could waste the time doing that. Greg, sold. Yeah, that's it.
But I don't think that the Gingerdead Man movies have come on Blu-ray yet, because I know when I was interested in maybe picking the first 1 or 2 up like 2 years ago, they were still only out on DVD. Maybe that's changed since then. I don't know, but
Is it Tubi? Is it your channel Tubi? Are they on there?
They're all on there. Yeah, there's
Tubi's got everything.
Tubi does
Yeah.
have it. Yeah.
Charles Band will sell it to anybody, so yeah, pretty good guess.
Yeah. All right, Dan, you're up.
I'm up. Well, I'll tell you, Craig's a really hard act to follow today. I'll tell you, because wow, I'm going to seem like so mundane and simple. Anyhow, so back in the early 70s, there was a shows on ABC television called the Tuesday Movie of the Week. And it was created by ABC because they were the third network, and they couldn't afford to rent the big studio films that were going to be coming out to be released to television. So they decided we're going to make our own movies in a 90-minute time slot. Films are going to run about 73 minutes, and they're going to be original programming, which they do now on Amazon and such. And there's a lot of great horror films that came out of that, have fond memories to people. The Night Stalker with Darren McGavin, and The Last Child with Michael Cole about the future, dystopian futures. They did a variety of films, anything from romantic comedies to whatever, but horror was their forte, and a lot of people remember them. And the film I'm going to bring up tonight is made in 1973 called Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. And it's about a couple played by Kim Darby, who was in True Grit with John Wayne, and she became the flavor of the month in Young Ingenue Actresses for 2 years. She's had a great career ever since, but she had this niche couple of years, and she made this right before she transitioned back into television. And she plays the wife of a couple. The husband's played by Jim Hutton, who was the father of Timothy Hutton. She inherits an old mansion from her grandmother. And she goes there, and they're looking around. It's rather creepy and gothic. It's a mansion that's in California called the Piru Mansion. They filmed it at, which has been used in anything from Fantasy Island to any number of films. They go there, and in the basement, she finds this room that was owned by the owner, or her grandfather. And all the windows are shut, and there's this ash bin where you take ashes from all your fireplaces and throw them in this doorway and then close the door. Well, it's sealed shut. And the handyman who's working on the house, played by William Demarest, who was Uncle Charlie on the My Three Sons show, a character actor in Hollywood in the 40s and stuff, tells her basically, don't open that. Don't open that. So what does she do? She opens it. Curious. Opens it up, and she hears voices. And out of this thing comes these little demons. Now, they can't go in the light. Only they live in the shadows. And the makeup, they were played actually by midgets in things. They made big sets for them to walk around in. Their heads look like acorns. They have sunken little eye sockets, and they wear kind of like little furry costumes. And they run around, and the whole thing is that by her opening up the releasing them, their job is to take the person, yep, there they are, take the person who has released them, and they're going to drag them back to their little demon domain, wherever it is down in the middle of the earth. So the whole show is they are tormenting Kim Darby, the wife. And of course, everybody thinks she's crazy. Nobody sees them, but there's some of these really great shots. It's creepy as hell. It has a gut punch ending in the end. You would not expect to find it. But it was one of the first movies of the week to be put on home video and highly requested. It came out on, I think, USA Home Video. Was released on a number of things. It was actually remade in 2010, written by Guillermo del Toro, and also he produced the film. And it's just one of these classic films that is just creepy as hell. It stays in everybody's memory. Back in 2006, they restored it at first to release it at the time with the Guillermo del Toro film. And then a few years later, and Peter held it up already, and that's the one they put it on Blu. Did a 2K or 4K scan, and it's like one of these many television movies a week that were originally viewed on really low resolution televisions, and you wouldn't remember. And they put some of these films on Blu-ray, and you have to realize these are film elements; these are not video, and they are just pop and fantastic. The film just mentioned the 2010-2011 film that didn't fare well at the box office. It actually is not a bad film, and it's got Guillermo del Toro's touches in there, bringing a child into the film, more like his Spanish trilogy horror films, like The Fantasy Through the Eyes of Children. The demons are creepy, so it's got some great nuances to it. So it's kind of like a re-envisioning of the film. So it's not a bad film. It's actually atmospherically done. Hell of a lot better than Crimson Peak. But that's my first pick. Yeah, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. 1970.
How many people here? I think we've kind of talked about it before, but how many people here? That film is probably like top 3 TV horror.
That was my number 1.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I bought it 3 times.
We didn't get a lot of them over here, but I got the Warner Archive just as a film because it's that famous. So yeah, you know, that and The Night Stalker are the kind of films that are almost beyond TV film, aren't they?
Dark Knight, Scarecrow, that'll be my number.
Yeah.
1.
It was so funny. About 15 to 20 years ago, these films, when they appeared on television in America, they never really had secondary lives. They'd show up late at night at 11:30. There was no syndication for them. They didn't come out. A handful came out on video. This was the first one to come out on VHS and did very well.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of them about 15 years ago. They were actually broadcasting them in Canada. And there's been a lot of ones that have resurfaced over the years in much better quality prints and so forth and so on. Things like A Cold Night's Death with Eli Wallach and Robert.
All right, Dan, we got to move this along, buddy. I love you, but we got to go, dude.
Didn't they show that movie at one of the horror-thons, Chris?
Yes, they did at the first one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and
sorry, Dan.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, I try to bring up stuff that most people don't show.
No. Listen, it's all good, but I'm like, all right, wait. I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. We got like a lot more shit to go through, so we got to go.
Okay. Okay. The second film is Curse the Doll People. Next. No. 1960, real quick. One of those Mexi horrors imported in by K. Gordon Merry. They were badly dubbed. They showed up a lot in afternoon theaters and so forth and so on. And what do you call it? It's about these 4 archaeologists that come out. They steal a statue from an ancient temple, and this priest comes back who looks like he's kind of like Prince Valiant wearing a bathrobe. And he comes back and he has this big zombie and he murders all of the archaeologists one at a time. And then they turn into dolls. And the people, they're played by midgets. They come out, they stick people in their necks with these huge pins, and they take their souls. And then they turn into dolls of themselves. So they had midgets wearing masks of the real human actors. And what do you call it? It turns around, they're really creepy looking. Atmospheric as fuck. There's a big zombie that leads them around, and the real
year was this, 63?
63. It's shown in U.S. in like 1968 regularly.
Curse of the Puppet People?
Curse of the Doll People.
Curse of the Doll People.
Yeah, it came out a while ago. Crypt of Terror. Okay, along with Bloody Night of the Bloody Apes. This was a small label that put out
the Bloody Apes. Yeah.
And this thing is great. It comes both in Spanish language, which makes a lot more sense, and the badly dubbed American one. The real Curse of the Doll People curse, the whole story, is that the head actor, Ramon Gay, was shot to death shortly after the film was finished being filmed by a jealous husband of some actress he was farting around with. And the main lady in the star of the film was a recording artist in Mexico, and really statuesque, I mean, gorgeous looking, who was a big star in Mexico at that time. And she ended up dying at the age of 31 in 1968 from some like pancreatic, not in cancer, just some weird disease. So 2 of the main stars died within 6 years of the film. But it's a worthwhile watch. It's all over the place. You can get through VCI, and it's also on YouTube and the whole shebang like that. So Curse the Doll People, worth a watch. It's silly, but it's atmospheric as hell, like most of those Mexi horrors.
Oh. Yeah, I've never seen it. This looks pretty interesting, actually. Cool. That's a good way. I wasn't expecting there would be too many that maybe I hadn't seen here.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
all right,
I'll
we
put
got a
that on the
couple.
list for sure.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Chris.
All right, this movie, it says it came out in 1981, but I swear to Christ, it looks like it came out like 1976. I actually rented this movie in the late 80s off VHS. And when I came home and watched it, I fucking hated it. And it's because it looks so shitty, you couldn't see a fucking thing. And then, like, I don't know, 15, 20 years later, Kino Lorber restores it and put out an unbelievable Blu-ray. And I got it, and this movie is fucking whacked, and it's a lot of fun. It's from Canada, and it's called The Pit.
Oh,
You
yes.
guys have seen this? There's this fucking creepy blonde kid he's supposed to be 12, but he looks like he's like a really creepy, like 16. And he must be walking around with boners all the time because he's like crawling under tables and like trying to look up skirts and like trying to look down shirts of teachers and babysitters and just fucked up shit like that. He talks to his teddy bear, but the teddy bear like turns his head and talks back to him. And long story short, he's playing out in the woods and he finds a huge hole in the ground, which is a giant pit. And in the pit are like 3 like little werewolf looking creatures. They have like jet black coats and like snouts and fangs and their eyes glow. And I remember renting the VHS and being so bummed because every time it cut to the pit, it would show the monsters, but the VHS looked so shitty, you could see nothing. So I fucking hated them. I don't even know if I finished watching the movie. But this movie, the disc looks amazing. Long story short, he gets bullied. So the local bully is like, "Hey, come to my house. I got something I want to show you." And pushes him in the pit. There's all sorts of other shenanigans. It's very funny. It's very similar. There's a new movie called The Shed, which is very similar. It took a huge influence from this movie, but I really like this. If you like really weird and fucked up movies, especially from the 80s, I would check out The Pit.
And he's
One
like
of those
feeding
movies.
He's like feeding them cold cuts and things like that, right?
Yeah, it
You know?
starts with
first,
the
yeah.
butchers. Yeah, it starts with the butchers. It's one of those movies that you want to cheer at the end because it's got a nice, funny little twist.
Yeah.
Just at the end. So, yeah, fun movie.
Yeah, it's fun. Worth checking out.
I got to see that. That's another one.
And then this other one. This is a newer one. 30-something years ago. My dad and I, in like 1990 or 91. I'm sure Dan used to go. We used to go to the Fangoria conventions in New York City. They were always like the first weekend in January. It was always fucking freezing cold out. Nobody ever had any money because it was like right after the holidays. But me and my dad are walking through this convention, and there was a guy that had a table, and he was like the producer or the director of some independent horror movie. And he had a little TV, and he was running the trailer, and he's like, "Yeah, I made the movie," and he was like showing us stills, and he had this monster on the table. It was a rubber prop, but it was the actual prop from the movie. It kind of looked like alligator, but like with like sort of like a fucking long nose, like Snuffleupagus. And like, he didn't have anything to sell. He was just promoting the movie. He's like, "I'm trying to get distribution." And we were like, "Okay, cool." And I don't know, it was like a year or year and a half later, maybe longer. I'm clicking through cable one night and I'm like, "Holy shit, that's that movie." And it's called There's Nothing Out There. It was shot in Connecticut. And to me, sort of like how they ripped off The Pit for the movie The Shed, to me, they ripped off Scream from this movie. It's one of those things where like, okay, it's a bunch of teenagers and they're, at this house in Connecticut and, one by one, they're getting killed off, but they're like, okay, wait, they're like, you know what happens when you have sex and we're teenagers, that's when you get killed. So whatever you do, don't have sex. And then when the one guy's like, yeah, no, I'll be right back. And they're like, no, we should stay together. Don't say I'll be right back. because that's when you get killed in the horror movies. So this is 1991. I think Scream was what, like 1996 or
It's
something?
6, yep.
But listen, I'm not saying Wes Craven or what's his name that wrote. I can't remember
Kevin
the guy's
Williamson.
name. That's it. That wrote, but to me, I would think it had an influence. Except that this is not a slasher movie. It's this weird little rubber alligator thing that's going around and fucking eating the people. But Vinegar Syndrome did a great job on this Blu-ray, which came out not all that long ago. So yeah, that's my second pick. There's Nothing Out There, which is also not a great title, to be honest.
No,
Kind of misleading.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, also too, I think wasn't Day of the Animals? Wasn't that like retitled something really similar to this? Like, there's nothing out there. There's something out there, or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to think there's something out there. Sounds like a better
There was a
title,
science
isn't
fiction
it?
miniseries called "There Was Something Out There" about aliens.
Okay, I see. I missed that one. But yeah, so not the greatest title, but fun. If you're looking for something schlocky, again, it's 1991, but it feels like an 80s movie.
Mm.
I got some stuff to watch after this episode, I think.
Yeah, got a list.
Things in my basket already. This is ridiculous.
Telling
This is
you, yeah.
starting to cost money to go on this show.
I know, right?
You
All right,
know?
Davey.
Good evening, as I reattach my microphone that has fallen off. I went in a slightly different direction for a couple of these, but this one's more traditional. I rewatched this one because I wasn't sure whether it was any good or not. And this is one of those films, if you watch it yourself sober, it's awful. But if you watch it with a few people, you'll have a blast. George A. Romero's Monkey Shines.
Oh, yeah.
What a terrifically stupid movie. It's got Jason Bigg from what's that cop show? He's been on for 300 years now. It's one of those Chicago PD yeah. So essentially, he's a paraplegic, and his friend's a scientist who is pretty much Jeffrey Combs without being played by Jeffrey Combs, and he's invented this serum that he injects into a monkey to make it super smart, and the monkey's voiced by who else but Frank Welker, because if you need an animal voice done, you always turn to Frank Welker, and the monkey becomes his little helper. And the monkey starts being a little too protective of Jason Bigg, but it's full of that kind of creep show George A. Romero dark comedy, where you get the monkey attacking his mother, you get the monkey going on sprees, the monkey knows how to cut phone lines and stop people from escaping. It's a bit like have people seen Shakma, that film about the monkey with Roddy McDowall? It's a bit like that. Yeah, that's it was either this or Shakma, and I realised that Shakma is actually a better trailer than it is a film, because the trailer for Shakma has to be seen to be believed. But this is by far the better of the two films. It does have people like Stephen Roots and Stanley Tucci in it, which I'm pretty sure they would admit to these days, but it's reasonably all-star cast. And it's the early 90s, so it's Romero after all his big hits, but I just think it's a really fun film where it's the dangers of science crossed with a real old school B movie, but with George A. Romero saying, I just want to have fun. You know, after that movie, he did The Dark Calf, which wasn't really fun at all. It feels like he just said, I just want to have fun with this one. So it was one of those kind of forgotten Romero movies, I think. You know, and if it's not called The Dead, then it doesn't tend to get remembered quite as well. So yeah, I'd recommend Monkey Shines to anyone who hasn't seen it. This version is from Eureka and is stacked with extras back there. This one,
that a couple years ago at a horror-thon.
Yeah, it's just a fun movie. Just a fun one.
It came out a long time.
Yeah.
That was
this. Beg pardon, Dan.
Oh, that was one of those films. I think Romero started souring on the studio system because they took control away from it in this film as well. That's why it came out kind of weird. They took a lot of his cutting, and that's why about the Dark Calf he was fed up.
Well, he wanted in the Dark Calf, he wanted to cast Michael Rooker in the other part, and they made him switch it. So yeah, he was pissed off at that. But Well, this stems from my own misunderstanding of the original concept of the show, because when Tiny Terrors was mooted in the group chat, I thought for some reason we were talking about either children or midgets. I didn't realize we were talking about creatures, and then I thought, well,
They're
I'll see if I
tiny.
They are
exactly
terrors.
right. So
Fair game.
they're not all terrors. Although if you've seen that movie about, that movie about the Munchkins in real life, like what they got up to in the set of The Wizard of Oz. Remember that movie?
Over the rainbow?
Oh, Under the
That's
Rainbow.
it. Over the. Oh my God,
Carrie
that is
Fisher?
where they're having gangbangs and everything. Bloody hell. We're off to see the wizard. Yeah, what a film that is. So I thought, well, I'll combine my misunderstanding with the actual concept of the show. And this is a modern one, a British film from 2017 called Prevenge. So half pregnancy and half revenge. It stars Alice Lowe, who was in The Wonderful Sightseers by Ben Whitley, also co-wrote that. Essentially, she's pregnant as she was in real life. She wasn't wearing padding here. She was getting turned down for roles. So she decided, I'll write myself a movie, and filmed it over less than 2 weeks. It's the story of this woman's pregnancy, and she starts to hear the voice of her unborn baby telling her to kill people. And so the serial killer is the unborn baby. So it's part of that. It's part of that kind of subgenre of the baby that comes out, and it's a creature, it's a monster. We've seen a million B movies like that, but this is much more of a dark comedy. It's got lines like children, they're always asking you for things like PlayStation or whether you can murder their parents. All sorts of absolute nonsense shenanigans goes on, but it's played totally straight, which is what makes it. It could be done in a very silly way. So it's not done in Zombievers-like way or whatever, where it's kind of winking to the audience. It's done in a very straight fashion, where it's filmed like a drama, as if this is happening just as a matter of fact, that this woman happens to be a serial killer who's been ordered around by her unborn fetus. But it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. The cover says it all: funny and twisted, pitch black humor, original, subversive. You can do the usual and read far too much into it, that it's, a mother that's scared of having a baby and it's, internalized fears and all that. Don't look at it too hard. It's just a fun knockabout movie about, wouldn't it be funny to see that most innocent thing in society, the mother waiting to have her baby turn into an absolute evil bitch. And yeah, Prevenge, fantastic film. I'd seek it out. This was on Shudder in the States, I think, so it may still be kicking about there.
I remember seeing it, but not watching it, but seeing it on Shudder.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, right.
Unborn baby is a serial killer, right?
And you hear it talking, going, "Why don't you kill next door?" It's got that kind of fun stuff.
Crazy, man. I may have to go watch that. All right, another one, man. Too much homework on this episode. Jamie, what do you got?
All right. My first one also has Stephen Root in it. It's a movie. He's always great. It's a movie that makes me laugh. Every time I watch it, I laugh. And I laugh just as hard every single time. And that is Bad Milo. About a monster that comes out of a guy's ass and starts killing people. It's fueled by his anxiety, and it starts killing the people that give him anxiety. So who you have in this? You got Ken Mario. You might know him from, I know he's in a bunch of things, but I know him from the very funny show called Party Down. You got Jillian Jacobs from Community. You got Stephen Root. You got, I always screw up this guy's name, Kumail Nanjiani. Is that how you say it? The funny Indian guy who was in Silicon Valley. He's hilarious in it. He ad-libs most of the things he says. A lot of people are ad-libbing in this movie, and you can tell they're having a blast. And for a movie about a monster that comes out of a guy's ass, it's not that gross at all. There's a guy who gets his dick chopped off, I should say. Well, chomped off, I should say. And there is a scene where Milo falls into the toilet at an outhouse, and he comes up full with shit all over him, and he shakes it off him, and shit goes everywhere. But it's dark comedy done very lightly. It's not gross. You could probably watch this with your girlfriend or wife, and both of you guys will be laughing. There's a certain energy to this movie and a flow, and the actors know how to be funny. It's very professionally done. Milo looks great. He's a combination of being like menacing, cute, and disgusting all at the same time, which kind of sums up the movie. It has perfect balance of horror, comedy, being gross, but not too gross. You're laughing at it being gross. It's just great. And I watched it a couple days ago again with the commentary for the first time. And the commentary with the writer and director, I believe, and Ken Mario and Jillian, it's as funny as the movie almost. So if you get the Blu-ray, watch it with the commentary and you'll laugh some more. My second one, I didn't know which one to go number 2 or number 1. I debated. One of these is kind of like pulling a Catino a little bit. But I went with this one because I knew none of you motherfuckers were gonna pick it because you want to go too deep. You ain't gonna go mainstream. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. Gotta go with Gremlins, man. I love me some fucking Gremlins. It has that 80s Spielberg feel to it. He didn't direct it, but it still has that Spielberg 80s feel to it that I just love. It, you can't talk about classic 80 movies of any genre without talking about Gremlins, throwing it in the conversation. Talk about Big, or you want to talk about 16 Candles, or fucking Steel Magnolias, whatever.
The Goonies.
Yeah, you got to throw in Gremlins. It has so many classic scenes that just it still make me laugh. The Gremlins singing Christmas carols, fucking hilarious. Them watching Snow White singing along. These are classic scenes. We should all know them. Getting drunk in the bar and flashing the bartender. Hilarious. Gizmo riding the Barbie Corvette to the rescue. He doesn't really rescue anything, but fucking hilarious. I watched it again. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I always forget how much Christmas. It's basically a Christmas movie. When people talk about, Die Hard's their favorite Christmas movie, this could be up there as one of my favorite Christmas movies. But it borrows from E.T., borrows from Alien, it borrows from Wizard of Oz. You even have Robbie the Robot showing up for some reason, and he's saying actual lines from Forbidden Planet in Gremlins. Don't really know why, but yeah, Gremlins, my number 2. So there you go. Everything else, Ghoulies, Munchies, they're all just critters. It's just ripoffs to me, man. Ripoffs of Gremlins.
They kind of are, yeah.
Yeah.
That was Joe Dante, wasn't it? Joe Dante directed.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah. And Joe Dante hates Ghoulies. That is his most hated film of all time.
Really? Yeah. Well, I mean, it came right on the heels of it too. It's
Brought us The Howling, Matinee, The Burbs with Tom Hanks. Great dark.
Yeah.
Mark Riddle.
Right up to Small Soldiers, even. There's another Tiny Terror, Small Soldiers.
Yeah, I almost picked that one.
Yeah,
You almost did Gremlins?
No, Small Soldiers.
Oh, I was gonna say. Yeah, I didn't expect that.
All right, my number
Which
3
is good. I mean,
Okay.
from 1992, Demonic Toys. This movie makes me laugh, and it's fairly gory and just out and out weird. I mean, the whole premise of the story, you got these 2 cops, a man and a woman, who get tipped off that there's going to be some kind of illegal gun deal going down in this toy warehouse, right? So they go in there and they get into an altercation with the gun dealers, right? Big shootout happens. Long story short, the male cop gets killed. One of the bad guys gets killed. And then there's this kind of whole face-off between the female cop, who's a gorgeous Tracy Scoggins, who looks amazing in this movie. And what winds up happening is after the gun guy gets killed, all of a sudden, some of the toys that are in the room where the killing happens come to life. And you get a little toy called Baby Oopsie Daisy, who's this little guy right there. Grizzly Teddy, Jack Attack, who's the Jack in the Box, and Mr. Static, who's the little robot, right? And I tell you, one of my favorite scenes in this movie, and one of my favorite scenes in any of these movies, is the first scene where you meet with baby Oopsie Daisy, and basically the security guard of the warehouse comes to contact down this corridor with with the little baby doll, and all of a sudden the doll starts talking and addresses the security guy and goes, "Hi, you fat fuck. I'm baby Oopsie Daisy. You lard ass. Would you be my special friend? I could walk. I could talk. I can even shit my pants. Can you shit your pants? Oh, it's playtime." Pulls out a gun, shoots him in the leg. And it's just so funny. The line is so great. And the way, because these are all like puppets and animatronics, and the way the facial muscles work on the baby is just classic, just really, really funny. Anyway, it's one of those movies with lines galore. The reason why they're brought to life is there's a demon who lives in the warehouse. The warehouse is haunted, and then it turns out that the cop, she's actually pregnant, baby from her partner who's now dead. The demon finds out that she's going to have a baby, and he's got this whole plan that he wants to be reborn in a human body through the baby that she's going to have. So that's kind of like the whole second half of the film. But there's great kills with the toys attacking people, especially the whole attack on the security guard is great. And it's loads of fun. Yeah, it's low budget. It was direct to video. They've made 4 sequels since. Really, none of them are any good at all. And you could probably arguably say that this is really not all that good either. But I have a blast with this. Directed by Paul Manoogian and produced by Charles Band for Full Moon Productions. So I've seen this so many times. So much fun. That's my number.
So they've done the crossover with Puppet Master as well.
Yep.
And
There's
Doll
crossover
Man
with-
too, right? Didn't they fight Doll Man also?
Yeah.
Doll Man versus Demonic Toys. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not very good, actually.
Squeezing 2 dimes out of a nickel. That's Charles Band's,
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, that's what he does. That's what he does. All right, let's stay on the Charles Band train here. Why don't we? Because I'm going to go with the first Puppet Master. This is a Blu-ray that's got the first 3. I actually think the first 3 are lots of fun. David Schmoller directed this one, again, Charles Band Productions. This basically sets the stage for the whole series. A lot of these films are kind of similar. You got the old puppeteer Andre Toulon, who creates these puppets that come to life, and he's had issues with the Nazis back in the 30s. Here, he commits suicide when he knows that the Nazis are coming for him, and then all of a sudden they fast forward like many, many years later, and all of a sudden, like, these puppets are like in storage in this hotel in Bodega Bay in California. And then there's this guy, Neil Gallagher, who owns the hotel, and he wants to kind of find the secrets of Andre Toulon and the puppets. And he winds up he's kind of like a psychic, and he winds up reaching out to all these local psychics, and he invites them all into the hotel for the weekend, and he wants them to kind of help him find what he's looking for. And it's got a really good cast, got some terrific looking women in here, but the puppets steal the show. I mean, they're just great. You got Blade, Jester, Pinhead is a total trip. It's this little puppet with big gigantic arms and fists and a tiny little head. You got Tunneler, Leech Woman. Leech Woman's hysterical too. She crawls up on people and like gorges up these giant leeches that then go and kill the people. Shredder Khan and Genji are all the different puppets, but a lot of good gore. A little bit of sex and lots of violence, and the acting is terrible, but who cares? In the end, it's loads of fun. I really dig the first Puppet Master movie, so that's my number 2.
That's a film that kicked Charles Band off into the stratosphere.
Oh yeah. These movies did very well,
Lots of
especially
money.
the first one. Yeah, they're pretty well done too. I mean, they look great. I mean, the films are really good. Like, the acting is probably the worst thing about them, but the first handful of them I think are pretty fun. Then they went down this Nazi route, which I just kind of turned me off. But then Chris said the last 1 or 2 are really good.
I liked it. I mean, the 4K was like $7 shipped from Amazon, so I was like, screw it, and I was shocked how much I liked it. I think I watched it 3 times.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know why they stayed on the Nazi thing for so long, though.
Like way too long,
7
right, Davey?
or-
Yeah. It's because I think the first like 5 are all stand on their own, very, very good. And then all of a sudden they went on this kind of Nazi thing, like movie after movie after movie. It's just like, oh, enough already, but whatever. All right, back to Craig, number 1.
All right, last one. It's a ripoff, but I like it, and it's the last one of the series to be released theatrically, and that's Critters 2, the main course from 1988. A lot of fun. Has the same space bounty hunters from the first movie that show up back on Earth to take out the critters. One of which Lee, I believe his name is, has like no face, and so it'll take the form of something that it comes across. So what does it come across? Like a picture of like a penthouse pet or so. So there's a couple of quick fantastic nude scenes in this movie where he takes the shape of this centerfold, complete with a staple that he has to pull out at one point. But the critters, I think, are really fun. I mean, they can besides having mayhem, they shoot little quills to paralyze people, and at the very end, they all form into one gigantic critter ball that goes rolling.
And they're
through.
fast. They're really fast.
They go rolling through town and running over people when they look normal, and then the critter ball rolls over them and there's nothing there but like a bloody skeleton. So a lot of fun. Scott Grimes is the main character in it. He's the voice of Steve Smith on American Dad, the son of now I can't even think of his Stan Smith on American Dad, but yeah, just a nice fun movie that and it's an Easter movie at that, with the critter eggs are mistakenly thinking that they're some sort of like almost like Fabergé type eggs, so they get painted up like Easter eggs in it, and of course they terrorize a guy dressed up as an Easter bunny, jump inside his suit and just rip apart this poor town. But yeah, Critters 2, the main course, it's a lot of fun.
That's one of those instances where I think the sequel is better than the first movie.
Yeah.
I like the first movie too. But
Yeah.
Like Troll 2.
And then goes,
Yeah. Definitely not on that one, Dan.
No, the documentary is great about that film, but
it's directed by Mick Garris and co-written by David Twohy, who did the Riddick films and the Arrival with Charlie Sheen, and co-wrote The Fugitive. So it's got some little.
Mick Garris directed a couple of Stephen King adaptations of films too. I think Riding the Bullet and a few.
Yeah,
other.
Mick Garris is brilliant. Yeah.
The first Stand miniseries.
Yeah.
Did Sleepwalkers too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Works with Joe Dante a lot.
Stay away from Critters 3 though.
They're still making them, Critter Island and things, just.
Oh.
First two are where it's at. After that, no thanks.
They're like 7 Tremors movies. So
I was just going to say, which has more, Critters or Tremors?
Tremors is on 7, Shrieker Island. Yeah.
Oof.
That was I caught that on cable. I'm like, ooh, man.
I've never seen anything other than the first one. Are any of them worth watching?
I didn't like the second one, and I stopped there. So
Yeah.
It's like The Howling. There's like 6 of them as well.
Show.
The TV show is fun because it's so
it was a Tremors TV show.
Yeah.
And I think Jamie had mentioned Gremlins. I think there's a new Gremlins show that's on HBO Max, a cartoon
Animated?
or something.
I think it is.
Yeah, because they were going to do a prequel series about Mr. Wing, and then must have realized, who the fuck wants to see that?
I'm surprised they never took Gremlins. I'm surprised we don't have a Gremlins 5.
Because
the second one, right? It cost a lot more money, and it made a lot less money than the first one, if I'm not mistaken. And it sucked. I remember seeing Gremlins 2 in the theater. I'm like, this movie blows.
Yeah, it's not good.
And I never saw it again.
That was back when the studios would say, I'm not going to take another chance. We're good. Nowadays, they'll just
you take a chance on everything.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, yes.
Yeah, too many chances. All right, Dan, you're number 1.
Okay, my number 1 is actually not a film itself. It's a segment within a film. The name of the story is called Amelia. It was written by Richard Matheson, who wrote us I Am Legend. Okay, and it appears in a Dan Curtis trilogy of short films or anthology called Trilogy of Terror, starring Karen Black. It's called the Zuni Fetish Doll. Yep. This one here, man, this has all the Dan, a woman who's moved away from her mother. She's kind of like living with her mother. She's sublets an apartment for 6 months. She's met a man. She buys him because he's into archaeology. She buys him this thing called a Zuni fetish doll, which is the creepiest goddamn thing in the world. Yeah. It's like a small aboriginal puppet that holds a spear, and it has a gold necklace on it. and she's constantly arguing with her mother because her mother she shouldn't see men, she shouldn't do this. Anyhow, turns around. Well, this thing has a gold necklace. If the gold necklace falls off, of course the demon will come alive. Comes home, somehow the necklace has fallen off of this thing. She thinks it's under the couch, maybe fell. She gets stabbed. Now it becomes like this doll comes to life. Yep, and just starts chasing her around the house. Not with his spear. He grabs like a fruit paring knife, and he's just making these god-awful noises. I mean, it's just the epitome of terror. If you watch this film, there's actually some scenes in it, the way the Zuni doll runs, you could say they took those and lifted them and put them in Child's Play, where you just see the quick glimpses of the doll, his legs and this and that and the other. Shock ending in the end. She gets bit by the doll, and probably the ending of this film with Karen Black sitting there is probably even two things happens. It's more unsettling than at the end of Pearl with that demented look on the screen at the end. And it also proved to me, watching the whole three films, how good of an actress Karen Black was.
Oh, yeah.
She played three completely different roles. They made a sequel 20 years later called Tales of Trilogy of Terror 2. Same principle with the Zuni doll returning, but this is another one of these films, a short segment, but it's as powerful as Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. And people always remember the Zuni fetish doll. And matter of fact, Charles Band ripped it off and made a film called Ooga Booga, in which the doll looks like
about that.
the Zuni doll. And as a matter of fact, Ooga Booga, that film, Karen Black has a part in that film.
Of course.
That was done like the last year of her life. She didn't play the same character, but she has actually part in it. But Ooga Booga is, according to Charles Band, was his homage to Dan Curtis, the one who brought the film. And Dan Curtis, brought us The Night Stalker, brought us Dark Shadows, brought us a great deal of great
Dracula as well. Yeah.
Dracula with Jack Palance, even Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it's so funny, even in this film, you can hear the same music from like the music riffs from, let's say, The Night Stalker. You had this certain style of music you use. A lot of fun, loved watching it. And once again, great new appreciation for Karen Black as an actress.
How many people were scared shitless by Trilogy of Terror when that first aired?
Oh, for sure.
Unsettling.
That scared the crap out of me. Holy
Get
cow.
that thing in the suitcase and
Through the knife going under the thing, throws him in the oven. I mean, and the noise he makes.
It's so maniacal, right? It's just like,
he's on crack. He's
I would say, though, we probably wouldn't have a lot of these films we're talking about if it wasn't for Trilogy of Terror.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so
for sure.
Influential. So influential. Yeah. Cool. All right, Chris, what do you got left?
All right. Well, Dan took my two number ones. So
that's why you told me to shut up.
Give us a number two.
I'm going with an oldie that I thought Dan would have picked. 1959's The Tingler.
The Tingler.
All right, yeah.
The Vincent, the Vincent. I had to find this was on a shelf. I looked for this because I wasn't looking for this, but when Pete messaged us that we were going to do this, Craig was like, "Oh, are you gonna look for your Zuni fetish doll? Because I have the life-size doll." I was like, "Oh fuck, Craig, it's in the attic somewhere." So I looked for it. Of course, I couldn't find the fucking doll, but I found the Tingler. But yeah, it's
doll. It looks like
is that the model of the monster?
This is the model of
that's the bug. Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is the model of the monster, the Tingler, but the same company made the model of the 1/1 scale of the Zuni fetish doll.
Okay.
But I couldn't find that fucking thing. So I grabbed the Tingler.
Story of my life.
Yeah, you guys know. But anyway, yeah, it's not the great, like I would have loved to seen this movie in 1959. This was a long story short. The premise is, right, Vincent Price is a scientist and he discovers a parasite, which he names the Tingler. Because it's this parasite, right? It likes when people get scared, so it attaches to your spine and grows when you get scared and gets bigger. And when this is a famous William Castle film, and in 1959, and this is one of those like, how the fuck did they get away with this? They actually would wire the seats to electricity. And certain audience members, if you were in a certain seat, would get an electrical jolt during the film when the Tingler appeared. I mean, it's fucking so crazy. could only happen in the 50s, although, and I'm still pissed to this day, like about 15, maybe 20 years ago, they reran a bunch of William Castle films in the city, and they wired the seats for the Tingler, but I don't know what I had going on. I couldn't get down there. They did the same thing with 13 Ghosts, where they had the ghosts on wires, ran them into the theater. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it. Not the greatest Tiny Terror movie, but it's fun. I mean, I have the DVD. But I think the concept, every time I watch it, I'm like, man, I don't know what I would do if I'm watching the movie and I get an electrical charge in my ass from watching this film.
You turn into Bad Milo, I guess.
But hey, listen, I've seen movies in 4DX, so it's kind of a similar. That's definitely a more high-tech concept.
I think in the Tingler, didn't the sequences were like the bug shows up, doesn't it went to color into red? Didn't they do that as well with that? Or was that another film? There was they colorized a few segments. That may not have been that one.
It's honestly, Dan, it's been a couple of years. I'm not sure. I don't remember that.
And speaking of Joe Dante, as a matter of fact, Joe Dante, when he made Matinee, yeah, it was a homage to William Castle.
William Castle,
John Goodman plays him basically.
Mm-hmm. Although I saw that recently, and I didn't think that held up all that great.
No, it didn't. The short film Mant is fun, but
yeah, and that's the best part.
Yeah,
it kind of gets confused about the whole Cuban Missile Crisis thing. That's just not interesting.
Yeah,
I saw the Tingler on the big screen during a Mystery Science Theater live riffing event where they actually did that on. They were on Frank and the Doctor were on stage riffing the movie live as it happened. So,
but nobody's seats were wired.
No, sadly, no.
It may be Castle's best film. Maybe.
Well, I mean, I'm not a fan, but he did have something to do with Rosemary's Baby.
I think he had the very loose concept. I think he had the rights. Yeah, but he wanted to make it as a total B-movie schlock piece of crap. So, yeah, I don't think we really need to give him too much credit for what actually came on screen. Although, I think you'd probably prefer that version, Chris. So,
yeah, if it was a schlocky B movie, and it was like 80 minutes, I probably would have liked it.
You would have liked it.
Yeah, the current one is not. Was that last year, Pete, that they ran that at the 24-hour show? Because they did run it at the Zuni Horathon, and I was like, as soon as it came out, I'm like, oh, I gotta walk around for an hour.
The Exorcist they ran, and
I love The Exorcist.
Yeah, I didn't.
I love that movie, but that's not the kind of movie you put on the marathon because you will put people to sleep. Even if you like it, that's not the kind of movie you put on. A kind of talky.
Yeah.
Can I just say that if Laszlo got hit by a bus tomorrow, I would say, man, that sucks. What is his address? I need to go through his attic.
Just don't open a particular suitcase because there's a doll in there.
Jamie's like, oh, that Tingler box, man.
Airing knife, I know.
We got a lot of stuff, Jamie.
I just imagine it as the end of Raiders, where they're putting the Ark of the Covenant away, and it's the camera just pulls back to the view, just never-ending artifacts.
There's a lot of stuff.
It's a curse.
Just the next time you do the local toy fair and you get a table, just make sure Jamie gets a plane ticket to come down, and you'll make sure you get
your address just in case it happens like a year from now. 3
years.
No.
I'll put Jamie in the will. I mean, listen, I did 2 local.
The executive.
I'll have a packed Jeep out back, but I'll be there for the funeral.
I did 2 local toy shows, and I did sell a bunch of shit, but man, when I go up in that attic, it's almost like a movie. Like I still don't see any empty spots. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
they sold all this shit.
Yeah. All right, Davey, what do you got?
Well, I didn't realize I was going to piss people off with this pick because I fucking love this film. It's Gremlins 2: The New Batch. I absolutely love Gremlins 2: The New Batch. Joe Dante did not want to do this, and he was told, "Look, Inner Space was a bomb. Even though it was a good movie, we need a surefire hit. Go back and do a Gremlins." And Joe Dante said, "The only way I can do this is if I rip the complete piss out of sequels." So I find the more in tune you are with the idea of him doing a very meta version of a sequel, the more you enjoy it. If you take it as a Gremlins movie, it's not as good as the first, obviously. But as a complete piss take, as a Looney Tunes version, literally, because it's introduced by Daffy and Bugs, this works brilliantly. You've got all the different types of gremlin, because he was being told, well, why don't you have the gremlins do that? Why don't you have the gremlins do that by the executives? So he spoofed that in the script, where he starts having the electricity gremlin, the vegetable gremlin, the bat gremlin, and possibly the greatest creature ever, the brain gremlin, played by Tony Randall. Which is Tony Randall as a gremlin singing New York, New York. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in cinema. It's a phenomenal film. It rips the total piss out of the first one. Phoebe Cates does the what's her famous speech in the first one? Is it Lincoln's? Her father was killed on Lincoln's birthday, was it? Or Lincoln's?
I thought it was like Christmas, right? Her dad dies in the chimney or something.
No, she's Lincoln's
Santa got stuck in the chimney and died.
Yeah. So she's telling that, and in the first one it's played very earnestly. In this one, it kind of like people are just going like, yeah, whatever, like totally ignoring her. Dick Miller's there, even though he dies in the first one. They just ignore that completely. He's back with his wife, Murray Futterman, one of the great characters. Clamp is one of the great creations. He's the Donald Trump type character in the film, played by what's his name? I can picture him. Oh, he played Bryce in Scrooged as well, and he's Lex Luthor's father in Smallville.
Come to the olds. It's not a bad place.
John Schneider? No.
John.
Oh, the guy that's in the Shazam movies, right?
Yeah, he's the father, of Mark Strong. You know what I mean. Anyway, he's also the one who creates Poison Ivy and Batman and Robin, accidentally. John something. Anyway, so he's the Donald Trump character. He's hilarious in it. You get the female gremlin. It's just a piss take of Hollywood sequels, and it's just full of absolute hilarity. The film makes me laugh so hard every time I watch it. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, the film just breaks down halfway through, because the Gremlins stop it, and they've ripped the film to shreds, and then Hulk Hogan has to threaten them to try and stitch it back together again. It's completely meta. It is Joe Dante saying, if I have to do it, I'm going to do the most Looney Tunes version, because as we know, Joe Dante loves Looney Tunes. He would direct one later on, Looney Tunes Back in Action.
What? When I watched the first one the other day, he uses, when the Looney Tunes starts, right before the dun, 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 the theme we all know, there's that extended note, and then it goes into it. He uses that as a sound effect in the first one.
Yeah.
I noticed
this one literally has a whole start with Bugs and Daffy. The commentary on this is hilarious, just like Jamie was saying about the filmy pits. The commentary is fantastic here, where Joe explains a lot of the behind the scenes stuff about, we really did not want to do this, but we thought if we have to, we're going to give the studio the stupidest, dumbest sequel we can possibly think of. And the studio saw it and went, this is genius. How did you think of this? So it's a real exercise in kind of meta fiction, which is my kind of jam. So I just love Gremlins 2 to bits. I watch it more than the original Gremlins, to be honest. Although I will 100% agree that Gremlins is a Christmas classic, even though it was a summer movie, rather oddly. But it's set in the middle of winter. Zach Galligan's terrific. I think Billy is just his best part. I think he's just perfect. Phoebe Cates goes a little bit sidelined, which is a shame, because I think she was always a great actress and wonderful to look at as well. But yeah, Gremlins 2, the new batch. So I won't hear a word against Gremlins 2. I love it to bits, and it's in the premium collection, for goodness sake.
Speaking of the Looney Tunes connection, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Bat Gremlin looks very much like Wile E. Coyote in his bat suit in one of the cartoons.
Oh, well, there's the genius part where the Bat Gremlin escapes from the building, and it makes the Batman, the Bat logo shape, and that shines on Christopher Lee, who's the scientist in the lab. And he's obviously Dracula. And then the theme tune from Dracula hits in for 10 seconds because he's all of a sudden seeing a bat. It's just brilliant. It's just movie reference after movie reference.
that's
It's the kind of
I
I
film-
need to rewatch it now because
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a million.
Yeah, I think
I've
I need
never
to.
seen
You can
Well,
get
yeah.
Gremlins is on 4K now, but you can get the regular Blu-ray on Amazon 1 and 2 for $7.
Yeah.
And Davey, wasn't there footage that was like in the theatrical version that was not in the VHS version?
Yes, because obviously the idea of the Gremlins ripping the film to shreds doesn't work on home video because you're not watching a film then, you're watching videotape. So they redid it with another joke with John Wayne, where they have some dialogue from John Wayne, and you get both versions on the Blu-ray. And you get 20 minutes of never before seen footage. So yeah, and a gag reel. So.
There's another $7 spent.
I was gonna say I'm
ready to buy it.
There you go. We've gone from Gremlins
All
to
right.
being shamed to the Amazon wish list. So there we go.
I will say Gremlins gave us, along with Temple of Doom, gave us PG-13. A
Yeah.
lot of parents were pissed when they went to that PG movie.
There were
Both
some
of them.
scary parts in
And
Gremlins.
One,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones had the heart scene, and Gremlins had the microwave and the blender scene. And then before you know it, Red Dawn, PG-13. Oh,
Who's the baddest ass character in Gremlins? The mother. She's the one that does the microwave and the blender.
Yep.
You know, she's badass.
Yep.
Well, since we're talking about it, a couple years ago, Joe Dante found a director's cut print, and he's run it at a few places in Manhattan, and I'm sure he's done it in LA too. But for whatever reason, they haven't released that version on home video yet.
Yeah, I wonder if they're waiting on another release because he did that with the Burbs. His work print of the Burbs was on the Arrow edition, and then I think the Scream Factory edition used it as well. So he's allowed additions to be added. So yeah.
Cool. All right, Jamie, what do you got number one?
my last one's a Catino, and I don't really care. Because
Well, Rich isn't even on the show. Maybe we're bringing him up left and right.
For a guy who's never on this show, we sure talk about him.
I'm telling
No,
you.
the last one he was almost in black
Most
and
talked
white.
about person on this show.
Kinescope.
It was in standard def.
Yeah, right. Betamax.
I was gonna make it lose points because it's a bit of an anthology movie, but there's a build up in the beginning to the little creature for the last half hour. So I'm like, hell with it, I'm including it. When VCRs first came out and we got one like in late '84 or whatever, in '85 I taped this off at HBO, and I could not believe you could tape a movie and then just watch it as many times as you want. And believe me, I watched this a lot.
The beginning of the downfall.
Is Cat's Eye.
Alright.
It's one of those movies. Yeah, you hear people say, "I don't know why I like it. I just do." And the first thing I want to do is say, "Figure it out. Tell me why you like it. Stop saying this is one of those I don't know why I like it, but I
Got a great groove. You could dance to it.
Right, yes. But you know what? I bought this 4K about 5 months ago, watched it, maybe even 4 months ago. So I said yesterday, let me just watch the last half hour with the little monster. Just, I put the fucking thing in and watched the whole damn thing again. I felt like a 14-year-old again, or a 15-year-old watching it again over and over. Here's the thing though. So in the beginning, the cat, Cujo chases them, and then they both get almost ran over by Christine. So that's great. And what doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does build up the movie to the end, is he goes to a window at a department store, and there's a mannequin, and Drew Barrymore's face kind of comes like a ghost over the mannequin and say, "Please help me, please help me." How is she doing this? Why is it happening? I have no idea. But it does build up like, okay, this cat's on a journey. He's just got 2 stories to go through before he gets to the one. And actually in the middle, Drew Barrymore shows up on the TV screen. Please, please help me, help me. But what doesn't make sense is when the cat shows up at Drew Barrymore's, she doesn't go, "There you are, I've been calling you, where are you?" No, it's like, "Can we keep it? It's a cat." So it doesn't really make sense, but I don't give a shit. I love it. Look, the first one that they go through is Quitters Incorporated.
That's good.
I think, of all the movies, I Googled yesterday what Stephen King wrote as a screenplay. I think that's the best 30 minutes he ever wrote, screenplay wise. It has a dark humor to it. It's actually funny. It's subtle, the humor, but it makes you laugh. What's his name? Alan King is so good in that role. I used to quote
and you can't
him
listen to
as a
96 Tears.
teenager
You can't
all
listen
the
to
time.
96 Tears anymore without thinking of that segment.
Him coming down the stairs singing every breath you take. That whole scene is great where everyone's smoking and James Woods. Cranky old James Woods is so likable and funny in this movie. It's great. Then the ledge happens and the cat's part of that too. And you got the guy going around the ledge. It's a story that can only be in an anthology movie because you really can't stretch that out, but it works for the 20 minutes. It's good. And then you get to the end and the cat shows up at the house. And, you know, I like the whole myth of it. It steals your breath. I mean, that's from like, I think the 1600s, but they throw that in there. And what you have is a little troll trying to steal Drew Barrymore's breath as she sleeps. And the cat is battling. The cat looks a little bit like my old buddy Sydney, so that's always a plus. Battling the troll, and you got the balloon scene where the troll's on the balloons coming down to the cat. The way the troll dies being on the record player, and the cat just knows how to change the speed on the record player to 45. And of course, 45 is way too fast in the movie, but I don't care. And the thing goes flying off. It's just great. I love it to death. I can watch it over and over, and I don't know why.
I haven't seen
VHS. One day you'll figure it out, right?
Yes, and I'll tell you what, the set pieces in the bedroom that the troll has to climb on to make him look, you know, small. Well done. You know, the big blankets and the big pole up to the poor Polly. He eats Polly, the bird, but the pole going up to the cage is all well constructed.
And he has that cool curvy dagger too.
Yeah, and then at the end, the cat goes to Drew Barrymore. Oh, is he gonna really suck the breath out of her? Oh, he just licks her, I think. It just leaves you kind of hanging.
I haven't seen that since the VHS days, for God's sake. I have to revisit that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The ultimate don't know why would be Stephen King, because he doesn't know why he did anything for about 15 years thanks to the cocaine.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that's one of those movies I'm sure Dan and Pete remember. WPIX here in New York,
Yeah.
Channel 11. I swear to God, every weekend they were either showing Beastmaster or they were showing Cat's Eye. Like it seemed like every fucking weekend it was one of those two movies.
Yep.
It can go both ways. It can make you love a film more because you've just seen it so many times, or you can just think, I never need to see that again in my life.
Yep. All right, my number one from 1987, directed by Stuart Gordon. Dolls.
Dolls. See.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. The premise to this movie, it's like, you know, having people realize by now, after all these years, that if you're driving out in the middle of the nowhere in a storm, don't pull up in front of the big old scary looking house out in the middle of nowhere and try to seek shelter, because it never really works out, does it? Going all the way back to the old dark house way back in the 30s, right? It just doesn't work out. So that's how this movie starts. You get this couple, right? This couple that are trying to get married because he's trying to get divorced from his ex-wife, and he's got his child, his daughter, who's with him on this trip. And his current girlfriend hates the daughter. He doesn't even really like the daughter. They're out in the snow in a horrible rainstorm. They decide to pull up to this big old mansion and get out of the storm. And of course, in the house is a elderly couple, and the guy is a doll maker. And he says he's going to put them up for the night. And all of a sudden, these two ladies, kind of punk rock chicks, and a doofy guy show up as well. They're also trying to get in and out of the storm. He picked them up as hitchhikers. The old couple's going to put them up for the night. And then he starts showing people all his dolls and everything like that. And then he finds out that the little girl likes dolls. So the old man and the old lady have to strike up a friendship with the little girl. And then one by one, you start to see these people get killed by the dolls who come to life. You know, long story short, there's some crazy stuff going on behind the scenes with this doll maker, and these dolls are actually people. So what they've been doing for years and years and years is they have been kind of trapping people in their house, and by use of magic are turning live people into dolls. And so all these hundreds of dolls that are in the house are actually all former people. There's some great kills in here. The dolls are really, really well done. There's great use of stop motion photography, which I really like quite a bit. Again, the acting is just pretty ridiculous in spots, but who cares? The humor is good. The film moves along really, really well. I mean, it's barely like an hour and a half, and I think that's what's 77 minutes actually. So really entertaining. It's actually one of my, I think, sleeper films from Stuart Gordon. You know, everybody talks about all the, you know, obviously Reanimator, but I think that it's very underrated in his filmography. So I like it a lot. I think it's loads of fun. That's my number one. Dolls. Anybody got any honorables you want to just kind of fire off real quick?
Right, no one mentioned Basket Case.
Oh, I didn't even think about
I totally forgot about that.
I was expecting someone to bring it up.
Or it's alive. Yeah.
Brain damage.
Yeah, any Frank Henenlotter really.
Yeah, that was my backup. Was It's Alive, Troll 2, or Troll 1, but Troll 2 is better. And
Poltergeist.
You know, I actually like Puppet Master 4 a lot.
1960.
Very good.
Devil Doll.
Oh, I love Devil Doll. That movie's fucking great.
The other one is there's actually.
I was just gonna say I watched over Jamie's right shoulder. I watched thinking that it would be good Munchies, and that was fucking terrible.
I kind of have fun with it.
I had my hopes up that it would be good. The best part of it is that the Munchies are driving around in an AMC Gremlin at one point. That's like that's funny. The best part. Yeah.
I just bought a collection.
Good one. I thought that one.
Even Dora.
Collection of the Leprechaun movies that I've never seen. It was like $7 for all of them. Are these terrible, unwatchable?
Yes.
Well, I have that too, Jamie. The first one is kind of fun. Second one has its moments. The rest are all just really bad. But you know what? It's so cheap, just get it.
Yeah, I got it. It's used for like $7.
Yeah.
When now that the Willow TV series bombed on Disney, could they bring back that Wicked guy for another fucking Leprechaun movie? That's the first thing I thought of going. It's gonna keep getting a gig.
There's a segment in the old Night Gallery series called Doll, written by Algernon Blackwood, who was like a premier English horror writer. About a guy who has a doll sent to him as a revenge thing. It's only 20 minutes long. The doll is the scariest looking doll. It just sits and shows it like an elk on a shelf. It looks like as if Courtney Love and Debbie Harry had like some kind of love child. And as this love child grew up, it became a meth addict. Black sunken eyes, white skin.
Courtney Love that.
It's only 20 minutes long. It's not great. It's it's television writing, but it's atmospheric as hell. And there was a series out last year. I can't remember what streaming channel it's on. It's actually called The Baby, about this like demonically possessed baby that lands in people's laps, and the baby makes people kill themselves and do crazy shit, and the baby cannot be killed. And it's like it's kind of a dark comedy. It's got some really creepy shit going on it, but it's just called The Baby. And last but not least, Toy Story 3, only because it's such a dark movie.
Yeah,
they go to the land of the misfits.
The furnace. The furnace.
I thought they were going in. I saw it the time. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna burn these fucking things.
Dark. And when they run into all like the mutated toys, there's like the island of Dr. Moreau, where this kid is putting together like maybe a bear's head on a rhinoceros's body, and it's just dark. It's a dark turn. You know?
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Film that's getting a TV show, I think, on Amazon. Teddy Gilliam's Time Bandit. And I like these guys because they're anti-heroes. They aren't good guys. They aren't bad guys. They are just bandits. They are just out for themselves. Oh, and this is one of the bleakest endings of any children's film ever made. So dark, so depressing.
Terry Gilliam involved with it? Yeah, right?
He directed it, yeah.
Oh, it's not involved in the TV series. No, I would gather not.
No, sorry, he produced it. And the star of it is Lisa Kudrow. How weird is that? Lisa Kudrow is going to be the star of Time Bandits, the TV show.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
I will say this is enjoyable. Dead Silence, more kind of
Yeah, that's
dolls and
all right.
whatnot. Pretty creepy. I don't care what anybody says. I love the first two Ghoulies films, especially the second one, which I think is a blast.
Number 3, Ghoulies Go to College.
I
Come
like the
on.
first one too. I think the first one's like a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, the second one's a lot of fun too because it's just nonstop Ghoulies mayhem in a carnival. It's great. And speaking of like puppets or whatnot, Mask or The Mask, right? Anthony Hopkins and Anne Margaret.
Magic.
Magic.
Oh, Magic.
Yeah.
Magic. Yes. Yeah.
Magic, yeah.
The Mask was that shitty 3D movie where they were like,
Yeah.
put the mask on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Magic.
Directed by Richard Attenborough, Magic. So really high quality stuff. I don't think he directed The Mask, but
And Anne Margaret topless.
Yeah, I was gonna say great nudie scene in there.
Yeah. It's quick.
Dead of Night, the original kind of puppet taking over.
Yes. That's fantastic. Yeah.
And the Twilight Zone, the Living Doll episode with Telly Savalas.
Talking Tina.
Talking Tina as well, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I will say
I can't
it took
believe-
me years to see the first Child's Play movie because I always assumed it was
It's a good
Yeah,
film.
none of us mentioned that. Wow. Nobody
I was
mentioned
just gonna say that's what I was just gonna say. Nobody mentioned Child's Play.
To it. Nobody mentioned it.
I
Then
don't think it would make my list, to be honest, even if it was intentionally.
But
I
you
don't
did
think
bring
that-
up, Pete, the possibility of ranking the Child's Play films
Yeah.
at some point. So
Yeah.
and then there's the where it all started. You say Tiny Terrors, 1938, The Terror of Tiny Town, a Western, a B-Western, bad B-Western, with the entire cast are
Played
midgets.
by midgets.
well,
yeah.
whole
if we're
story-
going there, then you could add
Freaks.
Freaks to the list.
Yeah, freaks.
Yeah.
And
That
they're so
movie's
short,
fucked
they
up.
walk under the saloon door. They don't even push it open. They walk under it. That's how short they are.
The
Yes.
original Babes in Toyland. We could just go on and on.
No, right. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
So many of them.
Never ends.
Never
A
ends.
lot of Tiny terrors.
Yep. So if there's any tiny terrors that we've kind of missed in this episode, because we've covered a lot of ground here, you, the viewer, please put them down in the comments below. And this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together. All the damn
All
All
the
the
damn
damn
time.
time.
Thanks for watching us here at the Monsters Den. Tune in 2 weeks for another episode of Horrific Mayhem. Till then, for Craig Kaminski, Dan Brown, Chris Allo, Davy Gallagher, and Jamie Laszlo, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good night and a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks on the
Good
Monsters.
night, guys.
Take care.